West Park Hospital is part of the 5 hospital clusters built in Epsom. Opened in 1924. It was constructed by the London County Council between 1913 and 1914, officially opening June 20th, 1924. The estate it sits on was 15 miles from the centre of London, covered 1,060 acres of land, and had a mansion house, offices, gardens and grounds, woods, and 4 farms. The original plan was to build 6 large hospitals, each to hold 2,000 patients, but only 5 were built. The initial planning of West Park Asylum started in 1906, and the building work commenced with the intention that the hospital was to be opened in 1916. However, work was halted by the outbreak of the First World War. When the Canadian military took over the buildings that had been completed, after it was handed back to the LCC in 1921, work on finishing the hospital started but wasn't fully completed until 20th of June 1924. In the next 2 years, the infirmary, the female acute wards, a male farm villa, and the chapel were finished. In 1929, the asylum's name was changed to West Park Mental Hospital. West Park, built as a set of separate wards buildings behind and slightly to one side of the one in front, in a sort of curved arrow's head shape. The main services were in the middle of the arrow, so, in plain view, it looks like a Horton and Longgrove, but without the curved main corridor. It comprised 45 wards for 2,096 patients on a total of 83.5 acres, of which 9 were taken up for the buildings and the associated 1.5 miles of service tunnels. The wards were 2 stories high, built using red brick with reinforced concrete floors between the 2 levels. The combined chimney and water tower stood 120 feet high. It held 3 large water tanks and stood on an 18-foot solid base made from blue engineering bricks. The initial estimate of cost was $517,930, but because of the interruption, the final cost was $1,030,670. As a cost-saving measure, softwood flooring was installed rather than the hardwood floor used elsewhere. By the 13th of November 1925, 1,720 patients had been admitted, 1,117 by transfer and 603 by direct admission. These patients were under the care of 6 doctors and medical superintendent. West Park House stood on the West Park Drive just outside the main gate and was the residence of the physician superintendent. In 1960, it was converted to become a school of nursing until, in 1984, it became the NHS Day Nursery for West Park Hospital. West Park Drive also held 2 sets of cottages for senior staff. Matron and the steward quarters were in 2 detached houses on the main drive. The main hospital was closed in 2002, but a few of the outer wards remained open for a short while.
Amare, oh, no, there.
Derek went through this process after Dr. John Todd, the psychiatrist, told him there was a small operation they could do that would bring his aggression down. The doctor asked, "How would you like to think that you could harm one of your children?" and the bells started ringing in his head. He felt powerless to prevent it. He was unconscious for the first stage of the operation, which involved pulling back the skin of his forehead and having 2 small holes drilled into his skull before having a nylon ball inserted into each. After seeing what they've done, his wife wouldn't give permission for a second stage, which would involve inserting electrodes into the brain. The neurosurgeon, Mr. Arthur Wall, visited his mother late at night to ask her permission, which made him very cross, as she was always drunk. She wouldn't have known what she was agreeing to. During the 8.5-hour surgery, he was awake and strapped down. He had his eyes open so he could watch the pupils dilating. They wanted to see how he would react to the shot bolts through the electrodes into his brain. He would scream out, "I thought they were going to kill me." At which point Wall leaned over to him and said, "I thought you were a tough guy." 9 days after the surgery, he was able to go home. He still had plastic balls protruding halfway out of his forehead. He went back 2 years later to get them removed and saw Dr. Todd again. He hated him, and every time he saw him, he wanted to punch him in the face. He never knew why they picked this procedure for him. Wall was trying to cure violence, and I think he was chosen because he was a boxer and because of his previous history. Years later, he sent for his medical records and found a letter from Todd to Wall, where he writes that he would be suitable for an operation because he had no gross psychiatric abnormalities. Both doctors have since died. He was extremely unfortunate. The procedure was carried out only a handful of times in the UK. At one point, he would get flashbacks of the operation up to 12 times a day. It took a long time for him to be diagnosed with PTSD. It still affects him today. He can't walk very far. He's jumpy, nervous, and have irregular sleep patterns.
This is Walter Freeman, MD, PhD. I'm 72 years old now.
This is Howard Dully. In 1960, when I was 12, I was lobotomized by this man, Dr. Walter Freeman. Until this moment, I haven't shared this fact with anyone except my wife and a few close friends. Now I'm sharing it with you.
In the past 4 weeks, I've come 7,000 miles chasing up patients.
This is one of the only recordings of Dr. Freeman's voice. He made it in 1968, 8 years after he operated on me. If you saw me, you'd never know I had a lobotomy. The only thing you'd notice is that I'm very tall and weigh about 350 pounds. But I've always felt different. Wondered if something's missing from my soul. I have no memory of the operation and never had the courage to ask my family about it. So 2 years ago, I set out on a journey to learn everything I could about my lobotomy.
Lobotomy was done at that time, and...
Well, hi.
Hi, how do you do?
Frank Freeman.
Howard Dully. I found Walter Freeman's son, Frank, in a little apartment only an hour's drive from my house.
Pleasure to meet you, by God.
Frank Freeman is 79 years old and works as a security guard. I asked him what he remembers about the procedure his father created in 1946.
We had several ice picks that just cluttered the back of the kitchen drawer. And the first ice pick came right out of our drawer. A humble ice pick to go right into the frontal lobes. It was, from a cosmetic standpoint, it was diabolical. Just observing this thing was horrible. Gruesome.
Frank Freeman tells me that the operation was invented in Portugal in 1935. The original procedure involved drilling holes in the patient's skull to get to the brain. Walter Freeman brought the operation to America and gave it a name, the lobotomy. Freeman and his surgeon partner performed the first American lobotomy in 1936. It made the front page of the New York Times. They called it Surgery of the Soul. Walter Freeman and his lobotomy became famous, but soon he grew impatient.
My father decided there must be a better way.
He set out to create a new procedure, one that didn't require drilling holes in the head, the transorbital lobotomy. Freeman was convinced that his 10-minute lobotomy was destined to revolutionize medicine, and spent the rest of his life trying to prove his point.
I guess you'd call it a magnificent obsession. I've never been able to sit down and talk with one of my father's patients. Been a darn good experience to meet you.
Yeah, it's opened my eyes some.
Oh, great.
I was age 12 when I had it.
Good heavens.
I still haven't sat with my father and talked about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So are you proud of your father?
Oh, yes. Yeah. He was terrific. He was really quite a remarkable pioneer lobotomist. I wish he could have gotten further. Yeah. Okay. Happy trails, everybody.
The age of the ice pick lobotomy started out with promise. Walter Freeman performed the procedure for the first time in his Washington, D.C. office on January 17, 1946. His patient was a housewife named Ellen Ionesco. Her daughter, Angeline Forrester, was there that day.
She was absolutely violently suicidal beforehand. After the transorbital lobotomy, there was nothing. It stopped immediately. It was just peace. I don't know how to explain it to you. It was like turning a coin over, that quick. So whatever he did something right.
Today, Ellen Ionesco is 88 years old and lives about a mile from her daughter in a nursing home in Virginia. Walter Freeman kept in touch with his first transorbital patient for the rest of his life.
He was just a great man. That's all I can say.
Do you remember what his face looked like, Mama?
I don't remember.
Do you remember his office?
I don't remember that either. I don't remember nothing else. Well, I'm very tired.
You want to go lie down? Or do you want
I remember sitting on his lap, and his beard was pointed, and it was very soft. As a child, you kind of see into people's souls, and he was good, at least then. I don't know what happened after that. I wish he hadn't gotten quite so out of hand.
By 1949, the transorbital lobotomy had caught on. Walter Freeman lobotomized patients in mental institutions across the country. He narrated this instructional movie promoting the procedure.
This is a boy of 19, a dreamy, sensitive individual, interested particularly in the current musical idiom of bebop. Transorbital lobotomy was performed on August 1st. Within a few days, the patient resumed playing the saxophone. Hallucinations subsided.
It was a terribly crude procedure.
I interviewed Dr. Elliot Wallenstein, who wrote a book about the history of lobotomies.
There were some very unpleasant results, very tragic results, and some excellent results, and a lot in between.
Why do you think the procedure became so popular?
Well, primarily because there was no other way of treating people who were seriously mentally ill. The drugs weren't introduced until the mid-1950s in the United States, and the psychiatric institutions were overcrowded. They were willing to try almost anything. I think the problem with the whole lobotomy period was that it spread like wildfire, that there was a lot of publicity, a lot of exaggerated success initially. There was a lot of demand for the operations because there were many parents and family members who were desperately in need of help and not getting any. And it spread not only to seriously ill patients, but to a lot of people who were not that seriously ill.
The operator lifts the upper eyelid.
By 1950, Walter Freeman's lobotomy revolution was in full swing. Newspapers described it as easier than curing a toothache. Freeman was a showman and liked to shock his audience of doctors and nurses by performing two-handed lobotomies, hammering ice picks into both eyes at once. In 1952, he performed 228 lobotomies in a 2-week period in West Virginia alone, lobotomizing 25 women in a single day. Through it all, Freeman's fame grew, but he wasn't satisfied. He decided that his 10-minute lobotomy could be used on others besides the incurably mentally ill. In 1954, with the introduction of the first psychiatric drug, Thorazine, Walter Freeman's lobotomy revolution was over. Almost overnight, there was no more demand for his services. The procedure was obsolete, but Walter Freeman refused to let go. He opened a small office in California and kept on performing the procedure. The office happened to be only a couple miles from my home.
Hello. David N. Yes, I am.
Howard Dulles. I fly to Washington, D.C. to visit the George Washington University Archive, which holds 24 boxes of Walter Freeman sealed files. I request to see my records. I'm the first patient ever to do so.
If you'd go ahead and fill this out, because
my file has everything. A photo of me with the ice picks in my eyes, medical bills, but all I care about are the notes. I want to understand why this was done to me. Mrs. Dulles came in to talk about her stepson, who is now 12 years old. It's pretty much as I suspected. My real mother died of cancer when I was 5. My dad remarried, and his new wife, my stepmother, hated me. I never understood why, but it was clear she'd do anything to get rid of me. Evidently, she heard about Dr. Freeman and figured he could help. Mrs. Dulles called up to say that Howard has been unbelievably defiant, with a savage look on his face, and at times she is almost... He doesn't react either to love or to punishment. He objects to going to bed, but then sleeps well. He does a good deal of daydreaming, and when asked about it, he says, I don't know. He turns the room's lights on when there's broad sunlight outside. He hates to wash. Okay. After a couple weeks of building her case, she brought me to meet Dr. Freeman. October 26, 1960. Howard is rather tall, slender, somewhat withdrawn type of individual. The first interview today was largely in a matter of getting acquainted. He told about his paper route, which brings him some $20 each month, and he's saving up to get a record player. Howard is rather evasive about talking about things that go on in the home. November 30th, my birthday. Mrs. Dulles came in for a talk about Howard. Things have gotten much worse, and she can barely endure it. I explained to Mrs. Dulles that the family should consider the possibility of changing Howard's personality by means of transorbital lobotomy. Mrs. Dulles said it was up to her husband, that I would have to talk with him and make it stick. December 3rd, 1960, Mr. and Mrs. Dulles have apparently decided to have Howard operated on. I suggested them not tell Howard anything about it. December 17th, 1960. I performed transorbital lobotomy. This is the physician's service report. Transorbital lobotomy. A sharp instrument was thrust through the orbital roof and moved so as to sever brain pathways in the frontal lobes. $200 for surgery, so the whole thing was $200. Well, that's pretty cheap. How fantastic. January 4th, 1961. I told Howard what I had done to him today, and he took it without a quiver. He sits quietly, grinning most of the time and offering nothing. And I was supposed to fight all this, huh? No way. 12-year-olds couldn't stand against all that. Just wasn't fair. When my stepmother saw the operation didn't turn me into a vegetable, she got me out of the house. I was made a ward of the state. It took me years to get my life together. Through it all, I've been haunted by questions. Did I do something to deserve this? Can I ever be normal? And most of all, why did my dad let this happen? In 44 years, we've never discussed it once, not even after my stepmother died. It took me a year of working on this project before I even got up the courage to write him a letter. Dear Dad, I am writing you this letter because I've gotten my records on the operation I had as a boy, and I have some questions to ask. I have not asked them before this out of love for you, and I'm afraid that asking will change your love for me. The operation has haunted me all my life. Now that I'm 56 years old, I would like to sit down with you and I couldn't believe it. My dad agreed to talk. I'm here with my dad. I have waited for over 40 years for this moment. Thank you for being here with...
I tell you anything that needs to be answered.
Okay, so we're here to talk about my transorbital lobotomy. So how did you find Dr. Freeman?
I didn't, she did. She took you. I think she tried some other doctors that said, there's nothing wrong here. He's a normal boy. It was the stepmother problem.
My question would be naturally, why would you let it happen to me if that was the case?
I got manipulated, pure and simple. I was sold a bill of goods. She sold me, and Freeman sold me, and I didn't like it.
Did you ever meet Dr. Freeman and What was he like?
I only met him, I think, the one time. He described how accurate it was and that he had practiced the cutting on literally a carload of grapefruit, getting the right move and the right turn. That's what he told me.
Have you ever seen a picture of the operation?
No.
Procedure at all? Would you mind if I showed you one? Or I show my dad the photograph of me at 12 years old with the ice picks in my eyes.
Oh, the thing I'm intrigued by is how you look so calm.
Is there anything in this that you regret at all?
See, that's negative, and I don't dwell on negative ideas. Now, see what, and what am I talking about?
Positive.
I always try to be positive. I don't make it always.
Okay. But this was, this is really, excuse me, has affected my my whole life.
Nobody is perfect. Could I do it over again? Would I have? Ooh, hindsight's beautiful. 50 years later, I can say this was a mistake.
Yeah.
Well, so was World War I a mistake.
So why do you think it's been so hard for us to talk about this, in your estimation?
Largely because you never asked about it. You never asked about it. It was an unpleasant part of my life, and I don't particularly want to delve into it.
Although he refuses to take any responsibility, just sitting here with my dad and getting to ask him questions about my lobotomy is the happiest moment of my life. Well, I want to thank you for doing this with me. I really do. I never thought that this would ever happen.
Well, you see, miracles occur.
Actually, what I wanted to do was tell you that I love you very
Well,
much.
whatever made you think I didn't know that?
Okay. Well,
You shaped up pretty good.
and I feel very happy about it.
That's what I want to hear.
After 2,500 operations, Walter Freeman performed his final ice pick lobotomy on a housewife named Helen Mortensen in February 1967. She died of a brain hemorrhage, and Freeman's career was finally over. But he never lost faith. He sold his home and spent the rest of his days traveling the country in a camper, visiting old patients, trying desperately to prove his procedure had transformed thousands of lives for the better. Walter Freeman died of cancer in 1972. To those few who remember his name, most think of him as a monster.
I don't know who could have perceived this procedure as a miracle cure. The only thing I see that came out of it was hurt and pain for a lot of people.
After 2 years of searching, my journey is finally over. I'll never know what I lost in those 10 minutes with Dr. Freeman, his ice pick. By some miracle, it didn't turn me into a zombie, crush my spirit or kill me, but it did affect me deeply. Walter Freeman's operation was supposed to relieve suffering. In my case, it did just the opposite. Ever since my lobotomy, I felt like a freak, ashamed. But sitting in this room with Rebecca Welch and her mom, I know that my suffering is over. I know my lobotomy didn't touch my soul. For the first time, I feel no shame. I am, at last, at peace.
In 2003, an arson attack damaged the Great Hall and several of the wards. And in 2010, demolishing most of the former hospital building began. In 2012, the site was redeveloped into housing estate with administration buildings and a water tower converted into apartments. What was once the former hospital has now been turned into a high-class housing estate. As for the paranormal, there isn't any solid evidence that there has been any paranormal activity at the hospital when it was opened or even closed, but people have claimed to have heard footsteps coming from the corridors and again in the tunnels. The whole atmosphere is like you have always been watched. There was also supposedly been some light anomalies, low moans and evil groans. Sometimes a woman's voice has been heard. The hospital itself is completely gone and it has been turned into housing estates. We couldn't find anything of the hospital at all, therefore it has indeed been demolished. There is, however, the water tower and the Scott House that still remains there today. The water tower, built in 1913, with the hospital standing at 120 feet high, and contains water tanks to maintain pressure throughout the mains. It also served as practical purpose by closing the boiler house chimney. After the hospital closed, it was retained and converted into residential apartments as part of the Noble Park housing development. The tower was crucial for the hospital's operation, providing water pressure for the vast network of underground service tunnels that carried hot and cold water, steam, gas, and electricity. The tower was designed to be visually prominent with a distinctive grey-black brick construction and red banding along with the round-headed windows. Its other function was to house the boiler house chimney and central part of the hospital's engineering service. The tower is a Grade 2 listed building, recognised its historical importance. And of course, here we have the Scott House. This is a smaller Scott House in no relation to the one built in 1872 by Sir George Gilbert Scott. But it was still used within the West Park Hospital for mainly alcohol-dependent patients and therapy rooms. Still stands today, but is non-accessible.